Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is September the 28th, 2020, and we are continuing our prophetic reading of Ezekiel, and we're on Ezekiel 9. So Ezekiel 9 verse 1. This is kind of a continuation from Ezekiel 8, so let's look at that verse first here, because it indicates that he's saddened by what he's saying, and so you can see that more clearly when we add this verse. We'll start from 17. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. Mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. So now we'll go on to chapter 9. He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice. So you see, it gives the notation that he's saddened by having to do this. It just has to be done. He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, and these are angels, because we have jobs as angels. Yahweh helps where he has to help. Otherwise, he assigns it to an angel. Continuing on. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. I'm going to tell you guys something. I haven't told you this before. Now, I cut my teeth on Ezekiel. When I first started studying the prophecies, that's what I studied, was Ezekiel. And I would go and I would read the writings of Sister White. And I think it was a revelation that I had. But I'll tell you what happened. You can decide for yourself. I would read some of the writings that she had about Ezekiel. And I was reading about Ezekiel 9. And when it came to this man in linen, it said, in quotes, I don't know if it was in quotes or not. No, I don't remember. But it said these words. It said, this is Jesus, specifically. And I know it said that because many times I would go back, because this is the book that I was reading. So I was studying it, and I was comparing it with Revelation and the other books, the same way we're studying the Revelation. And so I would go back and I would just put in quotes and do a search for this is Jesus. And it would come right up. And it's funny because, of course, I didn't know it was a revelation. The words were just right there in front of me. And until one day I tried to copy it. So I knew exactly where it was. I went there. I pulled it up. And then I copied it, and I was doing like witnessing online and everything. And so I copied it, and then I posted it in a group. And then I went back and I read through it, and I was like, wait a second, it's not there. Because it was clear to me, but it wasn't there. So I went back to see if I had copied the right thing. And guess what? From that point forward, I could never pull it up. Now, they could have changed it. Of course, they could have just changed the writings of Sister White, which I believe that they have done on many things. But no, I don't think so. I think that it was put there for me to see that was Jesus, Yahushua. Anyway, but we know that it's the high priest that serves in the temple. We'll see a little bit further on the things that he does that was going to identify him as Yahushua. Yeah. But I really did not know until I went back and copied it, and it disappeared. And I never saw it again from that point forward. But anyway, going back to this. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate. The higher gate, I did look this up. I was curious about it myself. The high gate, from what I gather, I put together a few scriptures to tell you, to explain. The higher gate, let me just give a little caveat here. I didn't study this out, as I would normally, but I was curious about what it was. But I wanted to do this study. So, hold on a moment. Okay, but I wanted to do this study today. I wanted to try and do a couple of them because it's been a little while since I've done any. So I didn't spend a lot of time on it. You can research it further if you want to get some details. But I did look up a few verses for higher gate. So that said, what I figured out was that there was a gate, there was a wall that was built around the temple area that seemed to have a road that led directly to the east gate of the temple. So there was a gate that led from the king's house to the temple. And then there might have been other gates as well, but they weren't physically higher up. They weren't physically higher up. I don't know if the high gate was the king's gate or if they were identified like that, but the higher gate seemed to have just been the name for the road that led to the temple, because there seemed to be paved roads that led through the wall that was built around the temple, and you would go through that gate and there would be a road directly to the temple. So that's the impression that I got just from maybe, I don't know, half an hour study. But I'm going to show you the scriptures that I looked at that I decided that gave me that impression. So we'll take a look at those. So, and he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba, and brake down all the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Hold on a moment. Did this say high gates defile the high places where the priests, and broke down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in at the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. What did I get from this? I know on the left hand, Proverbs tell us that that's riches and glory. And then on the right hand is longevity of life. Hold on a moment. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense. One moment. Where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba, and break down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city. I don't know why I put this in here. Or maybe I saw something before that I didn't see this time. We're just going to skip it. And he took the captains of hundreds and the nobles and the governors of the people and all the people of the land, and brought down the king from the house of the Lord. And they came through the high gate into the king's house. So they left the house of the Lord, right? And they went down to the king's house from the house of the Lord. And they came through the high gate. So they went from the house of the Lord down in proximity to the king's house. They went through the high gate into the king's house and set the king upon the throne of the kingdom. Okay? So that was one of the scriptures that I used. I can't remember why I put the first one in there, though. I'm sorry. He built the high gate of the house of the Lord, and this is where I got the wall from. He built the high gate of the house of the Lord And then it connects it with the wall of Ophel. He built the high gate of the house of the Lord, and on the wall of Ophel he built much. He added to, so he built the wall. A gate is just a door. It's just a door to the house of the Lord. So he built up the wall so that there would be a door so that they could pass through directly to the temple. And the wall of Ophel, he added to that. He built that wall up. So this whole sentence is about building up a wall. So that's what the high gate is. It's just a road that leads to the temple. And I do believe, I don't remember where I got it from, but I was thinking that I read something that said that it would be near the king's house. But of course we know that it would be, because the king he would have his temple set up close to God's house. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priest had burned incense. Okay, we already read that. Okay, so we're going to go on. But that's what high places is. It's just that's what the higher gate is. It's just a road that leads to the temple. But they're coming from the road which lieth toward the north. So the north, everything is in proximity to the east, right? So the north is going to be on the left. Oh, that's where I got the left-hand side from. I don't know. But the left hand, of course, Proverbs tell us on the left is riches and honor. But so you're looking at worldly honor. And so they're coming from the north, which is also, if you saw the previous study, where Satan or Lucifer, Isaiah says Lucifer wants his temple set up. Okay, so let's continue. And every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. But I mean, if it's honor, hey, I mean, well, never mind. It just depends on what kind of honor. And every man a slaughter weapon in his hand, and one man among them was clothed with linens, with the writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was. So Yahweh has left the Ark of the Covenant out of the most holy place. He was sitting there. He was upon his throne, and he went to the threshold of the house. Whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. So, I have it here. Yeah, I have my graph up still. Yeah. So we have, this is the address for this photo that I have here. Oh, the key, I didn't show you the key last time. That's the key. But then we have, Yahweh was here in the most holy place, and he went to the door. And threshold, where it says threshold, hold on a moment. It just denotes a crossing in from one room to the other. So he was right at the point where he would leave one room and go into another. Okay, so that's just all threshold means. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now this takes us back to, and I hope you guys remember this study, we did look at it, Leviticus, on the Day of Atonement. On the Day of Atonement, part of the command was to sigh and cry. It was also mentioned, I believe, in the first trumpet. No, right before the first trumpet. And we talked about it. So now we know this is going to be done on the Day of Atonement. We also know that the fifth trumpet is 5 months. We can put together, the Day of Atonement is, you have the Feast of Trumpets, which is on the first day of the 7th month. The Day of Atonement, which is 10 days later. Then after that, you have 150 days. We just recently discovered, and I posted it I don't know what I posted it in, but I did mention it. I may have done a separate video, I'm not sure. That the loud cry is going to begin in the first month. So you have the people being sealed. The sealing is complete at the 5th trumpet, the 5 months of the 5th trumpet, and then the loud cry going out along with the 6th trumpet, which we also see in Revelation 11 as well as Revelation 9. And that coincides as well with the first seal. The first seal is released during the 6th trumpet. I hope you can see the picture that I'm trying to draw here. I didn't do any graphs or anything. But so what's going to set off that false spiritualism, what's going to set everything off, is that 5 months after the sealing. Okay, so anyway, let's continue on. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after them through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they begin at the ancient men which were before the house. Okay, so we have a couple of pictures of people that are going to be slayed or die. So in the example of Daniel 3, the men that thrust Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace of affliction, they died. Then Ezekiel 5 says a third of these men are going to die from famine and pestilence. I think that's right. Let's just go back and check. Hey, you guys, I tried to make sense of these thirds. I really did. I looked up, I used the 2009 census though, and there was way more than 288,000 priests and ministers. So I don't think that's the count we're supposed to use. Because when I subtracted the 288,000, there was like 40,000 left. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like one person that assisted Yahushua in the New Testament. That one that I can remember anyway. There was one prophet, one priest that assisted him. But that's not to say that many weren't turned later, So maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's meant. That only one at the time that Yahushua preached came to him, and he came by cover of night. So when I saw that 40,000 remaining after you deduct 288,000, I was thinking, maybe I need to think about this a little bit more to see if I'm doing it correctly, because it just didn't seem right to me. But I'll keep thinking about it, see if I can come up with something. unless by some freak of nature we actually have less churches now than we did in 2009, or less pastors, which is highly unlikely. Anyway, so it's a third, and thou shalt take a third part and smite about it with a knife, and a third part thou shalt scatter in the wind, and I will draw the sword after them. So it doesn't specifically say, it's just the third part is going to be smitten, smite about it with a knife. It doesn't say. But they're going to die. Oh, it tells us, I think in chapter 6, that they die. I'm not sure. The mountains of Israel. I had thought that this was the officials. There's no way. Because I looked up the officials when I was trying to figure out the 288,000. And there was only like 500 officials. This is strictly the Church of God. This is his people. His people. But anyway, let's go back to the study. Slay utterly old and young. Yeah, and begin at the ancient men which were before the house. So it's going to begin, the people, the first that are going to be that are going to go through the judgment are the pastors. They go through the judgment first. And he said unto them, defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. And the city is just our religion. That's our those that claim to worship Yahweh, Yahushua. And it came to pass while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and cried, Ah, Lord God, wilt thou destroy all the residue of Israel in thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? He's not gonna, there's gonna be a remnant. And said he unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Judah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood. So the land is full of violence, and the city full of perverseness. Didn't notice that before. But he's speaking of the Christians specifically. The city is full of perverseness. Otherwise, he would have said the land is full of blood and the land is full of perverseness. But it's not hard to be perverse in the holy religion. It's hard to be perverse with other religions, but of course, it's not hard to be perverse in Yahweh's religion. It's easy, as a matter of fact. For they say, the Lord has forsaken the earth, and the Lord seeth not. So this puts it squarely in our lap right here. Because we spoke about this in chapter 8, where, let's do a split screen so we can see it. For they say, the Lord seeth us not, the Lord hath forsaken the earth. For they say, the Lord hath forsaken the earth, and the Lord seeth not. So it puts it squarely in the lap of the ninth hour church. Okay. And as for me also, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. Oh, hold on a moment, because I don't know what that also's in there for. As for me also. Hold on, let's go back and read a little bit. And he said unto them, defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. And it came to pass, while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face and cried and said, O Lord God, wilt thou destroy all the residue of Israel in thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? Then he said unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Judah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood, and the city full of perverseness. For they say, the Lord has forsaken the earth, and the Lord seeth not. And as for me also, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. Not sure what that means. And behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn in his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me. As for me also, my eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. Maybe he's saying that because this is the final judgment for these people. Did I ever tell you guys? I don't think I told you about my nephew. My nephew remembered his former life. He did. We could be riding by a park or riding anywhere, and he would talk about when I was a white boy. He was a white boy. He was a white man. And I think he may have mentioned once or twice that he had a white wife. I'm not sure about the wife, though. It's been some time. But I remember all the time, anything would spark his memory of when he was a white man or when he was a white boy. Just anything. And he would start talking about it. Now, I was young. I mean, no one in my family really cared, to be honest with you. I think we all just kind of knew The way it was just, it was not a big thing. It just wasn't. I do wish that I had asked him his name, but I didn't even think to ask him that. It just wasn't a thing. I wasn't a Christian at the time. But even as a Christian, reincarnation has not been a big thing for me. It just hasn't been. And I can't understand why it's such a big thing for other people, to be honest with you. I don't get it. Yahushua said that there were going to be people there in that generation that are going to be that are going to be alive on earth when he returns. And you can twist it all you want to, of course, if you want to make some other sense out of it. But that's what he said, and I believe that he said what he meant. That those people are going to be alive when he returns. But my nephew, all the time, he remembered his past life. And sometimes I would humor him, and I would talk to him about it, about when he was a white man or when he was a white boy. I can't remember the conversations, though. I just thought it was funny. So I would talk to him. I would be like, yeah, did you do such and such? Yeah. And he would just talk about it just like it was yesterday. I do wish I had asked him his name, if for no other reason, just to tell him. But I didn't. My sister didn't. She don't talk about it at all. Even when I bring it up to her, she just, it's nothing. And honestly, it really isn't that big of a deal to me either. As a matter of fact, I think the only time I've ever really brought it up to her was I called her up a long time ago when I was speaking to you guys about reincarnation or something, and I wanted to let you all know that story. And so I called her up and asked her about it, but then we got off into something else. It just wasn't a big thing. Anyway, so maybe he's saying, because he's not going to spare, he said, mine eye shall, that's what I should have looked up, was mine eye shall not spare. That's what's probably going to give us the definition there. I just didn't even notice the scripture until now. Okay, as for me also, so we're just going to have to leave this one in the balance because I don't know what this means. He's already sent these slaying angels out to slay them. So how is he not going to spare them is kind of up for question. Unless, of course, it's the last, that's it. That's the final judgment. And so the next judgment, of course, is the Great White Throne Judgment. So that could be what's meant by that. But I'll have to look that up. Mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. Sometime when I have time, though. Don't hold me to it for the study on Ezekiel. Don't hold me to it. Anyway, and behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. Leave it at that. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Until next time. Bye.